Hello folks, those of you who've followed me in social media, links in the description down below if you don't, will know that I'm a fan of collecting mounts. So as I've been working out how to target the various mounts that are available on Undermine, I thought I'd give you a full run through of all the important mounts from this patch. While it often feels like we already know everything before a new patch drops, this time around there were actually several of the mounts that were a little bit of a mystery or got updated just before the patch went live, which is why I delayed this guide until I had a more full idea about all of them. If you've already been diving into the new patch, I suspect you'll already have the new drive mount, the G99 brake mount, and the new seasonal Delver's mount, the Delver's Globetrotter. If not, both of those come from side quests as you start to dive into the new content. I do have a guide to obtaining the drive's customizations, which I will link down below. Probably the biggest single source of mounts is Renown. The main Renown cartels of Undermine have two mounts, the Violet Armored Growler from Renown 15 and the Top Skimmer Special from Renown 19. As well as the main Renown track, the four big cartels of Undermine also have some more traditional style reputation tracks. These work similar to the S.C.R.A.P packs or the Rathian and Sibelian reputations in Dragonflight, where you have to choose a cartel to ally with for a week. Unlike the S.C.R.A.P pack system, these unfortunately don't seem to share their reputation with the main cartels of Undermine or vice versa. And that means that these are going to be a lot more of a grind. Each of the cartels have a mount, which does unlock an exalted reputation. The Bilgewater has the Crimson Armored Growler, Steam Widow, the Mean Green Flying Machine, Blackwater, it's the Blackwater Shredder Deluxe Mark II, and for the Venture Company, it's the Ochre Delivery Rocket. Now, as an aside, all of these Renown mounts cost several thousand resonant crystals each. So I'm going to have to be keeping track of the cost of everything so that I can prioritize it appropriately. But also keep in mind that you can convert Kedge into crystals if you run short, and potentially even plunder your alts for more crystals, as those are warband transferable. We're also seeing the return of mount rewards from Paragon chests, with each of the cartels having a mount to drop. Hopefully these are going to have a very high drop rate, as being only able to farm one of those cartels weekly means that farming all of those Paragon mounts would be a really long grind. Anyway, getting down to the mounts you can get. For the Bilgewater, it's the Bilgewater Bombardier. Steam Widow has the Steam Widow Supplier. Blackwater is the Blackwater Bone Crusher. And for Venture Company, you have the Venture Coordinator. There's also another special 5th cartel reputation, the Darkfuse Solutions, who also offer a mount, the Darkfuse Demolisher, for hitting Exalted. You'll probably by now have a pretty good idea on how to grind out the reputation in Undermine, but if you don't, it's basically doing world quests, the main weekly quests, and killing rares. Because you can only pick one of the 4 main cartels each week to ally with, this means that this is going to be a very long grind indeed, with Wowhead estimating it could take you between 20 to 24 weeks. One quick tip I do have is to pick a different cartel each week. If you do that, you'll get a couple of extra world quests on the reset, as it appears that the 3 to 4 day rotation for world quests is retrospective when you switch cartels. Now, the Darkfuse reputation works a little bit differently. Once the Darkfuse is unlocked, the way it works is that you'll start receiving a currency called Market Research, which drops from basically rares and other activities in Undermine. And you can use that market research to buy a chest from the cartel quartermaster, which includes reputation as one of the rewards. There's also a brand new raid renown system, the Galazio Loyalty Track, and this offers 3 mounts. At Renown 8, you'll get the Thunder Drum Misfire. At Renown 17, the Darkfuse Chompactor. And at Renown 20, Florendo the Furious, which is probably one of the more exciting mount models this pack. All of these mounts will cost 500 gold from the Renown vendor and the Gap. Farming the raid Renown basically just requires that you do the raid on any difficulty and killing the bosses. The Renown is time gated to 1 Renown level each week, but there is a catch-up system and you only need to defeat about half the raid's bosses in order to max out your weekly allowance. The raid also has 2 more traditional mount drops from the final boss, Chrome King Galliwigs. The prototype ASMR is a very rare drop from any difficulty including LFR, and the big G is the mythic mount. This is likely to follow the pattern of other recent mythic mounts, with 2 being guaranteed to drop from every mythic kill until the end of the expansion, after which it will also become a very rare 1% drop for future farmers. And for the glory of the Liberation of Undermine achievement, there's Junk Maestra's Magneto Mech. This achievement can be done in normal, heroic or mythic. Most groups, I believe, usually end up doing it in normal. This is one of the mounts that gets very difficult to obtain after the expansion ends. In my experience, the best time to find groups to do it is halfway through the current season. For PvP, the Vicious mount is the Vicious Electro Eel, which comes in Horde or Alliance colours. This requires winning rated PvP matches while you have a rating of 1k or above. And the Gladiator mount is the prized Gladiator's Fellbat. This mount, of course, will only be available to obtain during Season 2. And for Mythic Plus, we're getting not 1, but 2 mounts. The Crimson Shredder tank is the Keystone Master reward for getting to a rating of 2000 in the current season. That's usually doing around Mythic Plus 7 keys. And the Enterprising Shredder tank is from the brand new Keystone Legend achievement for hitting a rating of 3000. This likely will require you to do all plus 13s if you can. Okay, let's move on to the more interesting bit, which is the open world mount rewards. Starting off with shipping and handling, which can award the Violet Goblin Shredder. There was initially a bit of confusion about how this mount was obtained, with some people reporting getting it as an additional reward from the surge pricing event, but that now seems to be just a bit of a coincidence. The way the mount actually works is that it has a chance to be awarded for completing the 10 job streak bar. You don't have to do anything special, just fill up the job streak bar, and after collecting the final job, when you get sent to the rest break, it can just turn up in your bags. Now, I'm not sure if it's a bug or not, but currently for me, the job streak actually is only requiring 9 jobs. But people are confirming that they're still getting the mount even after just completing the 9. The other requirement for getting this mount is that it appears you need to have Expert Haggler, which you get from hitting Renown 8 with the Cartels of Undermine. This awards a chance at getting increased rewards whenever you complete a job streak. Moving over now to the scrap event, and there's 2 mounts that you can obtain from doing those scrap piles. The first of the mounts is the personalized Goblin Scrapper. This is a chance to drop from the sifted file of scrap, a chest that you can buy from the scrap vendor, Angelo Ruspin. This is purchased using the various currencies that drop from the scrap event, including empty Kaja Cola cans and vintage Kaja Cola cans. You can also get this mount from another container, the Scrap Scrubber Deluxe, which can be bought for another scrap currency, the Gunk Covered Thingy. The Gunk Covered Thingies also drop from the scrap events once you hit Renown 11 with the Cartels of Undermine. The next mount is probably going to be the hardest, or at least the most annoying open world mount to obtain, the Salvage Goblin Gazillionaire's Flying Machine. This has a very small chance to drop from the Galagio Garbage Rare. This rare has a chance to be summoned from completely filling the bar on a scrap event, and has a daily loot lockout once you do successfully summon and defeat it. Initially, this seemed to be a very rare spawn from the event. I saw people reporting between 30 minutes to 2 hours of farming scrap before they got it to spawn. And with it being very difficult at the time to fill the bar for the event, without being in a raid group, it was looking like it could have been quite a painful grind. Thankfully, the developers have reacted to player feedback, and the rare now seems to have a very high, if not guaranteed, spawn rate, and the bar is much easier to fill, which should help a lot. Since these changes, I've not had any trouble getting the rare to spawn, even with only a few players in the area. And I suspect that once we have all the buffs for the event that unlock from the main cartel's Renown, it should even be soloable. Staying in the subject of rares, the Darkfuse Spy Eye has a chance to drop from the Darkfuse Precipitant rare. This rare is summoned using the canister of Darkfuse solution, which can be purchased for 100 resonant crystals from the Darkfuse Quartermaster once you hit friendly with the Darkfuse cartel reputation. And finally, there are 3 mounts which can be purchased using a special currency: Miscellaneous Mechanica, the Innovation Investigator, the Asset Advocator, and the Margin Manipulator. These all cost 25 Miscellaneous Mechanica and can be purchased from Skegget Cinderbangs. The main question, of course, is how on earth do you get this currency? This has a chance to drop from any of the rares in Undermine, albeit at a very low drop rate, with Wowhead data putting it somewhere between 1 and 5% depending on the rare. While for the majority of rares, this does seem to be included in the daily or weekly loot lockout, this is not the case for the 4 special summonable cartel rares. For these particular rares, the Mechanica is farmable, and it turns out these rares may also have the highest drop chance, with Wowhead suggesting as high as 5 to 6%. The Mechanica also has a very low chance to drop from overflowing dumpsters, which is a repeatable treasure that unlocks at Renown 13. The most reliable source, but also probably the slowest, is going to be the various Paragon reward chests. These seem to guarantee either 1 to 2 Mechanica per opening. But bearing in mind that it's probably going to take you 20 weeks just to get to the point where you could farm them, this is probably going to involve farming an enormous amount of reputation. Overall, this looks like it's going to be an extremely lengthy grind, which is probably going to last the entire season, if not well beyond. It kinda reminds me of the Protoform Synthesis farm from Zereth Mortis, albeit with a lot fewer mounts. If you really do want to go out and farm it, and I don't necessarily recommend it, the cartel rares seem likely to be the best way. There is going to be another way to get the mounts though. These mounts are bind in use, not bind and pick up, so they can be bought and sold in the auction house. Given the enormous amount of effort required to farm them, I do not expect this to be a very affordable route. I'd be very surprised if the mounts don't end up similar to the BFA zone rares like Golden Bane, which were around 1 million gold or more in the auction house. It's possible they may become a little cheaper 2 or 3 expansions down the line where there's less demand for them, but honestly I wouldn't bank on that. This does mean that the Miscellaneous Mechanica could become a potentially very lucrative gold-making activity for serious goblins. I know quite a few serious gold farmers who have been complaining about the lack of a major interesting gold farm, and it's probably a little bit more predictable to do than the BFA zone mounts were. I'm personally someone who prefers to play the long game with grinds like this, so my plan is just to kill any rare spawns that crop up in the zone while I'm out and about in Undermine, along with doing the quests and activities to farm renown over time. Hopefully it will turn out to be paced well enough that I can get all of the 3 mounts before the end of the expansion. And that's basically it for the mounts. If you're a mount completist, there's certainly going to be a lot to keep you busy in patch 11.1.0, but also I suspect a lot to get frustrated over. But what about all of you? Which mounts will you be focusing on? Will you be farming scrap or already looking forwards to making your first gold cap, selling those last 3 mounts? Let me know in the comments down below. If you found this video useful or interesting, then do let me and YouTube know by hitting that like icon. I do regular weekly news roundups for everything retail World of Warcraft related, along with a bunch of guides like this, reviews and previews covering all aspects of the game, but with a focus on open world content, mount collecting, lore and gold making. If that sounds up your street, then the best way to support my channel is by hitting that subscribe button. And you can also hit the bell icon to get notified whenever new content goes live. Next week, I'll be releasing a Season 2 update of my Delves Tips and Tricks guide to help you progress towards farming those level 11 Delves for that sweet, sweet gilded crest. Something that I think you won't want to miss. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.